Kia ora tātou everyone, talofa lava, my name is Laupepa Va'a. I am a public health registrar, so it's basically a doctor who's trying to specialise in public health. As Carol mentioned, I turned up in your lovely city of Whangarei in August, and I'm up here for a year doing a few projects in public health and trying to get a better understanding of what it's about. As you mentioned, one of the things I've been working on is with food rescue, and I will be talking about that, but I also wanted to talk about a little bit about food systems. And I'd like to talk to Melissa. I'm glad I managed to follow after her because I'm also a believer in terms of food and health. And I think it's something traditionally that has not really been a domain that medicine has really considered very strongly. We've always, I can definitely confirm that once we come out of med school, we tend to leave all that biochemistry behind, and then we start, sort of put the marionette strings on, as you say, and start sort of working with drugs and trying to treat it that way. So I think this is a good thing. So forgive me for those who already know food systems intimately. I'm going to go over them very basically, but I might to make a little bit of a point about something. So yeah, let's get started. So food systems basically includes all those activities involving production, processing, transportation, and consumption of food. So I know that's a very basic understanding. It's a definition from the Oxford Martin program from Oxford University. So I think when you start thinking about food systems, what do you visualise? It'll probably look something like this. So we've got a nice looking loop here, everything's all neat and tidy, and they operate this way sometimes. So food is about all the processes that go to feed us, and that's when we start talking about people. And that's what I wanted to mention. So we've got from the beginning, the growing, the harvesting, transportation, processing, packaging, marketing, from consumption and also disposal. So that's a nice little tidy diagram, but I think we can go a bit further than that. Now this one I love, because it's got people at the centre. When we talk about food systems, we tend to talk about processes, inputs, outputs, but we forget there's people all through that system. The system is meant to be for the people. And we have to consider that it's operating in a wider environment. So you have to add context to what the system is operating in. So we're talking about natural environment, we're talking about political systems, that can be very political. Social, cultural. Food is such an important thing in culture. Salmon culture, and then Māori culture, kai Māori, and also economic system. But we can probably go a bit bigger. Now this is a simplified diagram to get the system looks like. I know you can't make out the detail, but I put it up just to say that this thing is so huge, and the system is truly globalized now. We talk about global industrial food systems, the big beast, the big machine, and that it's very complex. But we can't forget the people at the centre. There's people operating all through that system. And I think sometimes that's easy to forget when we focus on economic growth and development. Okay. So what are some of the challenges that this system is kind of facing? I just kind of cherry-picked some of the big ones. Population growth. I think we're at about 7.2 billion or so people in the world. Is that right? We're projected to increase to about 9.6 billion by 2050. So the system's struggling right now. We have about 800 million people in the world that are going hungry. So how is the system going to cope with the population growth? That's something we need to consider. I know I'm talking a bit globally here, and this is a local focus, but I'll come back. Changing diets, globalization, urbanization has changed the way we eat, changed what food we're putting in our mouths. That has impacted health. We already heard a few things about obesity, diabetes, also impacting on the environment. Climate change, we know that impacts the environment that our food systems work in, so that's why it's so important. I think the whole system as a whole is contributing about 1/5 of the total global greenhouse gas emissions in the world. And also resource constraints. We're working with one planet, limited resources. How are we managing that? Talking about water, we're talking about water quality, biodiversity under threat. Our soils are being degraded. So these are all things that the current system is struggling with at the moment. And we know there are people that are not met, have their needs are not met by the system. So what should we focus on? How about this? Sustainable food systems. A sustainable food system is one that efficiently meets current and emerging demand for food, so thinking about the future, without jeopardizing the availability of scarce natural resources, so working with what we have already. I think that's a bit of a change in mindset that we need to So, does anyone know about the Sustainable Development Goals, or they've heard of them? Yeah. So, some very smart people at the United Nations got together and came up with these 17 goals, and under each of these goals is about 169 targets or something like that. So this was back in 2015. Now before that we had something called the Millennium Development Goals. So this was a bit of a revision, and it's looking sort of at the next, I think 15 years up to about 2030. One thing to note from here is that our global food system and things like sustainable agriculture, they impacted or impact almost sort of half of these, but I'd like to pick out two to talk about. There's probably obvious ones you've noticed up there. So zero hunger, which is about if you're making sure no one is hungry, improving food security and nutrition. And the other one is about responsible consumption and production processes. So there is one target under the number 12 goal that talks about reducing food waste and food loss. So when we talk about closing the loop, I put this nice diagram up before, but we want to be able to ensure that what systems we're using minimize waste, waste and food loss, and also caters to people, caters to who it's meant to cater to. It's not just an economic process. So I talked about food waste. Now this is a nice little diagram from the Food and Agricultural Organization. Those amounts up there, I don't know if you can see from the back, but they're in US dollars. So what we can see and calculate, so we're thinking about all the food waste, that's 750 billion US dollars at the farm gate. In terms of like trade value at the retail price, it's nearly $1 trillion. But that's only what we can see and what we can calculate from the information we have. It's difficult to put any sort of figure on, land erosion, how that's impacted. Well, greenhouse gas emissions, maybe. Cleared forests, increase in food prices, increase in water scarcity. So we're talking about all those environmental factors. I saw a comment before that if Mother Nature decided to bill us for everything else, that would be an extra $700 million. This is the same, isn't it? So coming back a bit closer to home, some other smart people a couple of years ago managed to go through quite a few people's bins in 12 district councils around the country. And this is what they came up with. So that picture is actually of food that they've rescued from bins that were considered still eatable. So we're looking at $172 million of food wasted in our country. This is New Zealand. That equates to 122,000 tonnes of food, which I think is enough to probably feed Northland for a year.
Is that supermarket bins or household?
This is just household waste.
Household,
So we're not even talking about what comes out of supermarkets or anywhere else in the chain. This is just household waste. So yeah, in terms of greenhouse gases, 325,000 tonnes. So if you wanted to offset that, that would be like taking 118,000 cars off the road for a year. Unfortunately, we don't have very much information in terms of what's being wasted in Northland. But I think, if there's anyone from council, I don't know if I think there is something in the works to try and get some data on what's, should be good. Food and health. So just following on from Melissa, I know we've heard about problems like obesity, diabetes, rampant everywhere. Instead of putting lots of statistics, I put this in, and this is based on actual data I've been looking at. It hasn't been published yet, so you guys are one of the first to see it. So what we got here is basically a BMI for age graph, looking at our 4-year-old kids from the Before School Check program. So if you don't know, if you're not from the country, Before School Check is a nationwide sort of program that is just a measure of growth development in kids before they start school. That green graph, keeping in mind that you don't want to get too confident talking about Z-scores. The green graph essentially is the World Health Organization standard. So it's like the ideal population in terms of BMI, right? The red line is our 4-year-olds, all our 4-year-old kids. So I looked at about a year's worth of data, and that's just over 2,000 kids. And you can sort of see that all our kids have shifted, and that's the point I wanted to make. It's not just one sort of group that's affected by what's happening. These are all our kids that have moved, right? So I think that really points to something that's happening in the environment that's not just about individual choice that are being made, right? These are our tamariki. And they're 4 years old. So yeah,
Excuse me, I've got no idea what their graph is saying.
Yeah, I didn't want to get too much into the maths of it, basically, but it's basically comparing a year's worth of data on our 4-year-olds. So they've had their height and weight measured, and then a BMI has been calculated. So I don't know if you know much about body mass index, but it's basically a measure, right? And then we use that to measure, things like obesity. The green graph is based on information that the World Health Organization has gotten from 6 different countries. So they've collated all this information, and it's basically been in terms of, they're like the sort of ideal, so they're like the reference standard. And then we've done the same for our kids here. So basically, there's a comparison between what is considered ideal and where our kids are.
But you're talking about that our body mass for children of 4-year-olds has increased.
Basically, the whole population as a whole has shifted. Has increased. So as you move towards the left there, that means your BMI is getting higher. So that's, sorry. The other point to mention is that not all our kids are on this graph because they couldn't fit. Like, I put this all into a little software program. We've got a few kids missing because they're so far down the other end. Sorry, Colton, I hope that answers my question.
They're taller and bigger, is that what I get?
Just bigger.
Just
It's
bigger.
not that height, is it?
The
Is
healthier
that-
majority of our kids, like, or what we would think as being the majority that should be healthy, have now shifted into the unhealthy standard way.
Oh, here we
So
go.
the entire chart is shifted.
So that if you had pretend you had 100 kids and it was 40 years ago when things were pretty normal and you
That was
plotted
the
100.
ideal, and now
So
they're
you've
all.
plotted them now and the plot's like that.
Okay, I think I got it.
Yeah, I hope that's clear to everyone. Does anyone else have any?
Is it just weight that you're measuring, or is it height and weight? Just weight?
So this is BMI, which is height and weight, but we have to adjust it because in kids it looks a bit different.
So are they taller and fatter, or just fatter?
There's a mix.
And that bigger.
And that bigger is, I think, from memory, it was about 29% of kids that were either overweight or obese. Overweight or obese, this is before. So hopefully that's a little bit clearer. Food security. So this is something that the DHB is a bit more involved in. As I said, it's not traditionally something we would look at in terms of medicine, in terms of working in the food demand. But so food security exists when all people at all times have physical and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food. It meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy diet.
I think they've already added culturally appropriate to that
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Okay. So yeah, it's a bit of a sad slide, but socio-economic equation is an underlying driver for Western food security. So food insecurity is associated with unemployment, low socio-economic status, and either Māori or Pacific ethnicity. And Māori were more than twice as likely to be food insecure compared to non-Māori. I know the data's a bit old now. In terms of local data, there was a study done a few years ago called Empty Food Baskets, which basically was more focused on children. It was done by I've forgotten their name now. Child Poverty Action Group, there we go. So basically, 1,793 school children, so 33% of children decile 1 to 4 schools receive some sort of food assistance at least weekly. They also looked at food grants in terms of MSD, and they found that there was a general increase in demand. So looking at food recovery.
Excuse me, Laupepa, can you
Yes.
just speak up a bit? I think a few of us at the back here just have trouble picking up.
Sorry,
Thank you.
yeah.
No worries.
So food recovery, I adapted this from the Environmental Protection Agency's hierarchy in terms of what the preference is in terms of dealing with waste, food waste. So you're either sort of having to reduce it at the source, and if you can't, whatever you can't do, then you sort of move down the scale. So the next step would be to try and feed hungry people, so donating food. And for whatever you can't do there, you just would go to food scraps for animals. So you move them down the pyramid. In terms of industrial uses, that's more about bioenergy, so biogas, and whatever else you can't use from that goes into composting and then landfill. So landfill's at the bottom because that's what we want to be the last resort, right?
So this is what you do with it.
This is what you do, right? This is the process. This is like sort of the ideal step. So start with not trying to make any waste to begin with, and whatever you do have, you try and use it in a more useful way. So, food risk, right? So we started looking at this. The DHB has an obesity strategy, and I've got a slide for it, but one of those aspects was looking at addressing food security by using food rescue. There's something a bit new for the DHB. So food rescue is about retrieval of surplus edible food that would otherwise go to waste and distributing it to those in need. So Kibosh Food Rescue is the first food rescue service in New Zealand. I think it was set up in 2008, and there's been many more services that have adopted their model and served the different ones around the country. And they've rescued over about 600,000 kilos of food since. It's based on a centralised model where food comes into them, it gets sorted, and then it goes back out. And the model is very reproducible. So these are some of the ones around the country. So we've got Kiwi Harvest, Fair Food in Auckland. Good Neighbour have a food rescue in Tarawai. Kaivolution in Hamilton. Y Waste is in Masterton, and we've got Kibosh and Kiwi Community Assistance in Wellington. Satisfy Food Rescue in Canterbury, and Food Share in Dunedin. And I know there's a few more operating and doing slightly different things. Someone was talking about Just Zilch and Palmerston. Yeah. So yeah, this is definitely some of them, but not all of them.
And do you know at which point they're intervening, at which point in the food system?
So these guys are all doing quite similar things to Kibosh, so they're basically not on the same model. So this is food coming from supermarkets and producers. So that at that sort of level.
Do you know if anyone is doing farm food rescue for what they don't peak because it won't get bought by supermarkets?
I don't know what all of those other guys do actually, whether they get it straight from farms.
The local growers in Northland are generally selling at the Wanneroo markets.
Yeah.
And their tag 2 vegetables go there. What I see on the farm is that The pig farmers are picking up,
Yeah, okay.
or they're selling carrots for $1 a kilo, for horse carrots.
Even
So-
big scale farms?
I'm talking the biggest
Yeah.
farm
Awesome.
that I've visited in Northland, so I don't see any large scale waste on farms when I go there, because it's money.
Yeah.
Farmers want money.
No, of course.
So this is our obesity strategy I was talking about briefly, but I've just put it up just to point to the fact that under addressing food security, we are looking at food risk and a couple of other things.
Sorry, even I can't hear you anymore.
There's a microphone right there.
Yes, please.
On the table, right by your glass of water.
Is this gonna work?
Peter.
Hello?
No, it's not. What else?
Keep going on.
No, keep
Yeah,
going, keep
yeah,
going.
yeah, keep on trying.
Keep it.
Working?
It's working in progress.
Is it? Okay, I was projecting my voice a bit more. So yeah, sorry about that guys. Just talking randomly to myself.
Can you hear yourself?
I can hear myself there. So just to make a point that, I think it's a good thing that we're starting to look at food in terms of our health, because it's something that's been neglected. So one of the things I did when I came up here, I've always had an interest in food environments, and when I started here, that's when the DHB was starting to look at food security and food and health, and using food rescue as a vehicle for that. So these are some of the things we decided to come up with to try and look at. So what is the current food distribution environment? And is there a need for such a service? What food types would we be looking at, and what was already being distributed? Who are likely to be... Sorry? Oh, that's good. Here we go. So, sorry about that, guys. Do we have time? Or I can go back. So yeah, some of the questions we were looking at. Who are the likely donors and recipient organisations if we found there was a need? And what are some of the resources? We had to think about a lot of different things in terms of transport, where we would set up. So this is a very simplified version of what we found out is what's happening in Whangarei. But it's only a snapshot really, and after I'd finished, we had a bit of a tight deadline for the project. And after I'd finished, I'd realised, people were still talking about everything else that was happening in their communities. So I know it hasn't captured everything. I do know that. But so this is kind of how the food distribution network looks like. So the main thing that's happening in Whangarei at least, and around the Northland, is what's happening between the supermarkets and the food banks. They tend to dominate the scene here. And I ended up talking to both. In terms of emergency food, what I mean by that is what some of the social services are doing with food. Now, a lot of them, it wasn't really part of their core business, but when they found a need for it, they would try and put something together, and that was just from what they had. The community meals, there was a lot of some of the local businesses that were right next to the growers market, so someone's mentioned the growers market, would come and take what was left over at the end. So I think people like Food for Life. So that's one thing that was happening. And then we've talked about sort of community gardens and things that have come up, and they're scattered all over Northland, heaps of them. So some of the themes that came up in terms of food and types. Credits and non-perishables. So when I visited a couple of places in terms that were doing food parcels, that tend to be the dominant sort of food type. So when I talk about credits, I mean goods that are damaged, but still considered, edible but not sellable. So but a lot of that would be that sort of canned goods, dry packaged foods. And the two biggest gaps were really in fresh fruit and veggies and meat. We did have a few people that said that on occasion they'd get quite large donations from growers directly or from butchers in terms of meat, but not a lot.
And do they have refrigeration infrastructure?
That was the other issue, because sometimes they'd have people that wanted to donate those things, but they didn't have storage capacity. So that was one of the things we had to think about afterwards. Same goes for dairy products. Bread, there was heaps of bread. They collected so much bread they didn't know what to do with it. Really, so. Just in terms of large groups, who are we starting to think about? I've talked about supermarkets. Obviously, we're thinking about the Northland producers and the growers. And something in terms of like the food gardens as well. The recipients in terms of what you might expect. Food banks, some of the social services that did show interest and said they'd like to be involved and be able to put these together. Schools, I talked to one of the principals just around the corner from me, and he definitely mentioned he's seen a big need in terms of the school actually having to source food from somewhere to give to the kids that aren't turning up with lunch, right? And he said this is going to be increasing. So I thought local marae here, but I wanted to, it's more the actual community that's around them as well.
Another genre is the pack houses that might be included in there.
Yeah, I did speak to one chap from one of the pack houses here, and he didn't seem to have an interest, which was interesting. But yeah, I think what's here isn't exhaustive by any chance. I think again it's just a snapshot of what people have said might be.
Yeah, but again, pack houses, I deal with pack houses persimmons, and they send tons and tons of second grade to the Auckland markets, so they're not wasted. And I purchase them myself for a very low price. And there's nothing wrong with the fruit, it's just not able to be exported.
Yeah, I think that's one of the
The
things in
kiwi
terms
fruit
of,
industry pilot in mountains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are the ones that should be targeted then.
There's lots that need packaging like that.
and I think that's the thing. While the study sort of did pick up on a little bit of what was happening, it hasn't picked up on everything. And I think why we've got, one of the reasons it's good to have everyone in the room is because people know things, right? People know things that didn't come out in the study, which is good.
Have you included fishing as part of the potential donors? I'm thinking of this fish brain, this app that's now out that you can...
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's not working, mate.
Oh, isn't it?
No, I subscribed 2 years ago and I've never had a call. I love fish fries.
I saw it being advertised the other day. It's
Yeah, it may get my man at the
mind,
moment.
so, yeah.
Well, up north it is working.
Is it?
Oh, great. I just think it's such a cool...
Yes. And,
Yeah.
it's definitely working.
This is a great concept.
Great.
But no, that's definitely a valid point. We didn't talk to anyone from the fish industry in this study, but afterwards, after we'd finished, someone mentioned, hey, we should look at this too. It's like, okay.
Good, yeah.
So I think if one thing, it did stimulate a lot of discussion about, okay, who else can we look at? So one of the things I did do was, actually it was right at the beginning, so I should have put this a bit earlier, but I went to visit a couple of these food rescue organisations. So I went down to Coevolution in Hamilton and Good Neighbour in Tauranga, just to see what the setup was like, how things were run, because we didn't really have any idea. So some of the things I sort of mentioned was about starting small. So I think the whole idea is really about establishing good relationships, finding out what's existing, making sure you integrate and work with them better, rather than trying to take over. So starting small, working with, say, one dominant donor, a couple of recipients. Having the systems in place before starting. Someone asked me about policies and things yesterday. A lot of what's already being done in food rescue is actually really reproducible. So having the same in terms of like documentation, what policies you have, all that stuff can be used again. And I found that a lot of the other organisations have been very helpful. And again, developing relationships. So these are all human-based systems. In terms of the model, I mentioned about having a centralised location where the food can come in, be sorted, and then be distributed again, or people can come and pick up. Having the right equipment, having adequate storage. So these are some of the things we had to think about and try and get in place. Having administration, someone to manage the process. A lot of the organisations that exist have a heavy sort of reliance on volunteers too. So we did have a chat to Volunteering Northland as well. And transportation, but having the right right to vehicles in terms of like refrigeration and that thing, so the food's kept safe. That is the last slide. One thing. One thing I'll end on. This is a picture of Death Valley in the States. I stole this analogy from someone named Keith Robinson, who does a really good TED talk. But if you've seen it, then forgive me. But this is Death Valley in the States. It's one of the hottest, driest places in America. I think it's about 80 meters below sea level. Most of the time it looks like this. But last year, for the first time in about a decade or so, it started to look like this. They had a big, bigger than average rainfall, and it sprang to life. So the reason I put this in is that in this room we have a lot of opportunities and a lot of seeds of possibility, and I think we need to harness that. We've got a lot of knowledge and expertise in the room, so I just like to acknowledge that. And I think if we want to make some changes, we have to act. And I think Melissa's right, and I back that up, that this is really a call to action to do some work, pull together everyone's knowledge and actually get things done. Thank you. That's the end of my talk.